Hello everyone, this is Rachel live from Kalkine Studios and you're watching The Early Trades, a show where we share with you a glimpse of the Australian share market at the open, along with the global and domestic drivers triggering market momentum. The S&P ASX 200 edged 0.6% higher in the opening minutes of today's session, placing blue chips on track for their first daily gain for the week. All but energy and utility shares edged higher in the minutes after 10 a.m. in Sydney, indicating a broad rally that lifted 9 of 11 share market sectors, led by a 1.9% advance for tech stocks. Shares in Netwealth soared 10.4% following news before the markets opened that it had attracted $4 billion in funds under administration for their September quarter. That's a record for the company. The online fund manager increased anticipated funds under administration inflows for the financial year from $10 billion to $12.5 billion on the strength of the new client assets. Shares in South32 jumped 6% after the company revealed a $1.55 billion deal for a 45% share in a Chilean copper mine. And Redbubble shares were the morning's laggard, falling 10.1%. That's after the e-commerce group said sales and profits had fallen in the September quarter. One reason behind the drop was a rapid decrease in sales of masks, which reached $29 million in the third quarter of 2020, but just $6 million in the quarter just ended. We'll look at these stocks in more detail shortly. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones ended flat, the S&P 500 ended up 0.3% and the Nasdaq traded 0.7% higher. Minutes from the latest Federal Reserve policy meeting were released overnight. According to the minutes, the Fed could begin reducing the pace of its monthly asset purchases as soon as mid-November. And in more company news, South32 will purchase a 42% stake in the Sierra Gorda copper mine in Chile for $2.1 billion. In a deal that will give the ASX-listed company joint control over the asset alongside a Polish mining group. South32 entered 2 binding agreements with Sumitomo Metal Mining and to purchase the stake that includes a contingent price-link consideration of up to $500 million US, and that's based on copper prices between 2022 and 2025. The deal will be funded through cash on hand and underwritten $1 billion US acquisition debt facility. South32's net cash balance at the end of last month was $660 million. South32 will divide ownership of the mine at 55% joint venture partner KGHM Polska Miedz, a global miner listed in Poland. Next up, explosives group Orica has announced its desire to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. That's in a plan that broadens its existing ambition to reduce Scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2030. The Melbourne-based multinational says it will source renewable energy and optimise energy efficiency in production, alongside efforts to deploy so-called catalyst abatement technology, which reduces carbon emissions. The group will also work with suppliers to source lower emission intensity ammonium nitrate and ammonia. That accounts for 70% of Orica's Scope 3 emissions. The company also committed to reporting company results using guidelines from the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, a global effort led by the Financial Stability Board to standardise corporate climate risk reporting. Now, before we look at some other important newsmakers, it's time for a very short break. Stay tuned. I'll be back with more trending updates.
Hi, I'm Sage, and get ready to take the crypto ride with me on Kalkine TV. Watch the Crypto Buzz every Tuesday and join the excitement at Kalkine TV. From Bitcoins to NFTs to Dogecoin and DeFi, we have updates about everything around these digital currencies. Understand the investing rationale and the risks involved in the space with me, Sage, on Crypto Buzz. Keep watching Kalkine TV.
Hello, welcome back. I'm Rachel live from Kalkine Studios in Sydney. Let us look at some more newsmakers from the opening bell. Netwealth has increased its anticipated net inflows for its funds under administration for the financial year to $12.5 billion after attracting $4 billion in the September quarter. The quarterly haul was the biggest net quarterly funds under administration inflow on record for the company and pushed its administered funds to $52 billion. Around two-thirds of Netwealth's funds under administration are fee-paying. The company's funds under management, assets whereby it directly oversees the portfolio, increased $900 million to $12.6 billion. Next up, Redbubble suffered a 34% dip in gross profit in the September quarter as a collapse in sales of masks weighed on the business. Gross transaction volume slumped by a fifth in the quarter to 142 million compared to the same period last year. And earnings before interest, depreciation and amortization fell 85% to $3.9 million. The drop was partly driven by a collapse in mask sales from $29 million in the third quarter of 2020 to just $6 million in the same period this year. The company reiterated its August guidance and expected financial year 2022 revenue to be slightly above the 2021 financial year that ended in June. Next up, September quarter run of mine coal production for Whitehaven Coal grew 15% compared to the same period last year, although saleable coal production edged 4% lower. The quarter was marked by a rapid increase in the price of coal as energy commodity prices soared on the back of strong demand and weak supply in Europe and China. Despite this, Whitehaven Coal sale prices were below the general coal price given pricing was set prior to the recent price peak. The increase of the price of coal will buoy cash generation for the company. That's according to Chief Executive Paul Flynn. The company pointed to the difficulties in supply coal, which have helped to push the price of coal up. And for another update, ASX listed Collins Foods has purchased 9 KFC outlets in the Netherlands. That's after securing the franchise rights for the country earlier this month as part of a plan to build its presence in the country. The 9 outlets bring the number of KFC restaurants in the Netherlands to 44 that they own, which is 55% of the market. Collins Foods paid €10.25 million to secure the new restaurants. The 9 additional restaurants will not count towards Collins Foods' plan to open up 130 new KFC restaurants in the company. Let's look at a few economic data dropped to expect for today. Australian jobs data will be released this morning. Chinese inflation data will also be released, and in the US, producer prices and initial jobless claims will also be released. On the speeches front, Guy Debelle, Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of Australia, spoke early this morning at the CFA Institute of Australia conference. The topic was a very timely one: climate risks and the Australian financial system. He warned about changes to policy and the economy to thwart the global rise in temperatures, threatening businesses in carbon-intensive industries as Australia transitions away from fossil fuel. He said the central bank has looked into the potential impacts of the net zero policies from some of Australia's largest trading partners, which could have dire scenarios for the coal industry. Well, that's all for the early morning trade. Stay tuned to Kalkine TV as we have many more shows lined up for you, sharing live updates across the economy, markets and sectors. This is Rachel signing off for now.